All right, guys. We're going to be talking about the monthly US dollar today. Actually, monthly, weekly, daily info. And this is going to be for the period of May 18 through May 22nd. Um, and once again, everything that has to do with purple represent my monthly zones. Anything that has to do with red represents weekly zones. And then from there on, we just kind of will drop it down. And for the people that know how I trade, you guys already know that I'm mainly focused on the 4 hours. And once we get a new 4 hour level or breakout or somewhat we're hitting maybe higher time frame supply or demand, I tend to actually be focused on the reversals out of there. And I'll sometimes be tempted to actually break it down to a much more of a day trade and see if I could get a much better entry. At any rate, I'll explain to you in further detail what I mean by those things. Um, so let's go ahead and drop it down to a weekly here. And you'll notice that dollar came into what was monthly resistance. It actually it bounced back. Not only did it bounce back from monthly resistance, it bounced out of the weekly resistance as well. We're pretty much and then this kind of created somewhat of a weekly support, but it's kind of roaming around there. As far as weekly levels goes, there's really nothing to look at here. I mean, if I just had to pick a bias here, would be more towards the downside, but it doesn't really mean anything. It's just a bias, right? So let's go ahead and drop it down to a daily level here, and then you'll see here that um, this is where we start getting a little bit more in details. So this is where these yellow lines come in. This is where we're pretty much playing in with. That's the bottom pivot. That's the top pivot. So that's our range. Not only was that the bottom pivot, but actually we kind of been kind of saying that that was more of a daily demand right there, and it actually worked out really well right there. All right. So we're coming into the 600 level, okay, and this is more of your like your drop base drop right there. It's a supply right there. um, these white lines that you'll see me fill out, I've been filling them out for maybe like the last 3 months, and it's all it means is just support and resistance on lower time frames, and it helps me identify whenever I see support and resistance on lower time frames, and they kind of just coordinate with supply and demand. It just means much more of a bigger level for me. um, so if I had to pick a direction right now, actually it'd be towards the top side, but towards the upside. But the problem is, how are we going to react out of this 600 level? And for that reason is why, um, just know that once we hit the 600 level, we're going to need somewhat of a major push out. And even if we get that major push out of the 600 level, just know that we have supply right around there. Okay. So once we get into a data supply, you should, if we don't, I'm sorry, let me get this out the way. Uh, if we don't get a kick from right here and then bring it back down, the next objective or the next plan is going to be, we're going to get a big breakout, but we're eventually going to hit that supply, and then we should definitely get a bounce back out of that level, maybe break out of that, and then continuation back up. Okay, that's your next supply level right there. So all these, and one thing that I want you guys to understand is that, remember these white lines that I talked about, how they're, all it means is just support and resistance on lower time frames. Well, I like them when they have support and resistance on lower time frames, but there's also supply right there. So that just means a much bigger impact level that I am not willing to take the chances and try to actually break out these levels. At that point, I'm just, you know what, hands off, and let the dollar tell me what is it going to do. Are you just going to stall in this level, just create that zigzag level and just break out to the next level? Well, if we actually break out to the next level, that's our daily pivot right there. So it's just so much. Um, if the dollar keeps on wanting to push up, just know that you should actually maybe switch gears and say, hey, you know what? Maybe swing trading actually is not the time for this right now. Let's just go ahead and day trade up to these levels right there. So that's one conditions. Remember that the way I trade is that, and the reason why you'll very seldomly, I do actually like that New Zealand dollar never came up to that level, but we'll talk about that as we go on. Very seldomly you actually hear me put out like, hey, you know what, I'm taking this trade off right here. I do it every once in a while, but not so often. The reason why is because everything is contingent upon how the dollar reacts, and based on the dollar's movement for the day, I'll react with any given pairs for that given day, or maybe the week. All right. So the one plan is that, hey, you know what, we are going to be breaking the levels, the 600, and just know that this is going to be a tough ride up, and maybe, hey, you know what, let's just go ahead and switch gears. And then the next one would be actually, hey, you know what, we react out of this under. Let's go ahead and bring this down and take these out. So the next one is that, okay, well, what if the 600 level reacts really well? What if the 600 reacts really well? Well, we created somewhat of a 4-hour support right around the 550, and then from right there, I would need another 4-hour candle, which leads me to the next chart. Let's go ahead and switch over to the 4-hour chart. Anyhow, what if the one game plan would be actually? Let me start with the game plan I actually had in mind for Friday. One game plan would be is that we open up the market and then we go, hey, you know what, the market opens up and we come down to this 550. Yeah, at that point, if it comes down to the 550, then yes, at that point, I'm actually bullish on this. Let me go and get rid of this line right here. At that point, I'm actually bullish, and then say, hey, you know what, that level is going to react, because not only is there demand right there, there's support right there, and then I'm taking easily up to the 600 level. That's one game plan. All right. But at that point, I'm hands off. I need another 4-hour candle to break this 600 level for me to come down and test my next opposing daily supply right there. All right. So as these things start happening, I start creating a game bias plan, okay, for that given day. And then also, another thing you guys need to know is that I heavily rely on strong week analysis for that given day. So just because the dollar is strong doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to short the pound, I'm going to short the euro, I'm going to short the New Zealand. I try to take, if I know that the dollar is going to be strong for that given day, sometimes I'm going to get a really bearish, maybe pound, because that's what it's looking like. I'm kind of saying the pound because that's what it looks like for this given week. If I know that the pound is like the most weakest pair, most weakest currency for the given day, I'm going to put much more emphasis on the pound than trying to short maybe the euro dollar. All right. So that's why my biggest emphasis when I'm day trading these or when I'm switching gears is I got to give much more emphasis on my strong week analysis. So that's that play right there. If it decides to go up, then just know that that's not only us. You so you guys can see here, I kind of like that 4-hour supply and daily demand. So yeah, I wouldn't take it as high as I'd wait. I would wait maybe 4-hour daily candle closing above the 700, and for us to take it up to the next level. So that's one plan. And then we were talking about, hey, you know what? Well, what if that plan doesn't work? What if? I'm just gonna bring this down. What if the 600 decides to, you know what, um, tank that 550 and we get a 4-hour candle breaking that way? Okay. Um, well, at that point, I will let the 4-hour candle beat the 550, and then I would have to wait for a retracement. The inconvenience for actually getting a pullback is that sometimes you don't get the pullback. But remember, we're not trading the dollar necessarily. But if we see that the dollar is just yanking down and just pulling down, we could say, hey, you know what? Well, you know what? If the dollar's pushing down, let's switch gears and maybe let's look at the euro dollar, or let's look at the Aussie dollar. Let's look. There's other pairs that we could actually play against with. Okay. So at any given point, I'm sorry, at any given point, I would wait for the pullback. If it doesn't give me the pullback, I know I'm going to get some kind of a pullback, and then just continue the way down. The 570, 475 last week was actually here. Let's talk about the 475 because last week I didn't do the videos because of it was Mother's Day for the people didn't know, weren't aware of why I wasn't going to do them. But last week, important level for us to break out was a 475, and then and as you can see, look at how these candles. Yeah, we were getting wicked for the people maybe getting wicked out, but the 475 never actually closed out. Okay, the minute we got the anchor breaks out of here, maybe sometimes the 500 was not enough for you. Maybe you wanted to wait until you get that close above this level for us to continue writing down the upside. It just depends on how everyone has their own way of saying, hey, you know what? No, I need more confirmation. Sometimes that is me. Sometimes I'm saying, you know what? I need more confirmation than that. Well, then the inconvenience to that is that you, you're not you're missing out of the ride, right? Um, it just depends on you. What I'm trying to actually tell you right now is that once we get a movement like that, just kind of think about this for a second, right? Let's just say that we are the 600 actually works out and we break the 550. Think about the kind of movement we're going to get from the 550 to the 475. I mean, that's giving you enough um, leeway for you to say, you know what, game on. Let's go ahead and short the dollar, and let's start looking for all these other pairs, but to short the dollar at that point. Okay, so this is the beauty about actually studying these higher time frames because it should give you that extra added confidence that once you're shorting, I'm sorry, once you're going long on, let's just say I'm just going to pick the euro dollar in this case. Once you're going long on the euro dollar and this is the game plan, this is how it looks like it's going to work out. Well, the minute we hit the 475 or we're about to hit the 475, I'm hands off. I'm hands off because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I mean, look how many pushes it gave out of that 475. And what if we actually all of a sudden we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. So because it might just do that. Okay? And at that point, I don't want to be part of it. Okay? So just get out. Get out and then just wait. Wait until you get the confirmation to push down because more than likely you will actually get a pullback for the continuation back down. Now, the question comes in is that how far down do you want to push it? Well, the answer would, for me, would be the 425. Why? Because if we look at the daily chart, 425 is where it really stalled out, and that was daily demand right there. Um, so that's pretty much the game plan for the dollar index, guys. Just kind of be aware that I like creating these what if scenarios. Well, what if the dollar breaks out of the 600? What if we get a 4-hour candle that breaks that 600 level? Oh, then perfect. Let it break out. Let it break out. You'll catch it on the retracement, and I'll show you guys these on these other charts where uh, some of them you'll get the retracement, and it's good. Some of them you don't. Okay, um, and then you'll take it up to the next 4-hour daily supply right there. All right, guys. So that's pretty much it for the dollar index. Um, and always refer back to this dollar index whenever you're going to be picking out trades for that given week. I don't really have any set and forgets for this week, but I do have some really good pairs that just caught my attention this week, and I'll share them to you on the next video. So anyhow, guys, I'll see you guys on the next video, and any questions or comments, just leave them below. Thank you.